Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by yet again. Before I do anything else, I should mention the group, enthusiastic-looking group on the cover of this video and the home page, or when you first came in. This group of young ladies had just returned from the United States just a little over a week ago with the first NFL, National Football League title for Panama. And the story to this is that in American football, we have another sport called flag football, which is really widely played for fun. But it's quite serious. I mean, people get really intense about it, but it's for fun most of the time. All over the world, you'll find flag football leagues pop up or whatever. We have them here in Panama, and they're pretty intense. So they have their championships. Well, our team, they're done by age groups. The men's and women's are separate, but the ones at least for the youth, I can't claim for the men's and women's. I'm not that familiar with the organization of the sport, but those for the young people are supported by the National Football League in the United States, the people responsible for the Super Bowl, okay? Now, in this instance, they had their championships. And our 17U, it's called, the 17 and under girls team went up to contest the championship in their division, which is the top of the line for young adults or young people, and they won. So they defeated a team from Texas, as a matter of fact. Very exciting, and we were very pleased for them. They did a terrific job. They're very good at it. I've had adult friends here who played, and they're very serious about it. Well, these young ladies were too, and they had a great coach, and they went up and they won it. So Panama has its first National Football League title. That came as a surprise to a lot of people here, including me. I didn't realize it was going on until after it happened, and we saw this great photo, so I wanted to share that with you too. Today, I'm going to really focus on one particular matter. And I might mention this. If some of you are getting slow responses to emails, I managed to sprain my wrist, and it's definitely getting better every day, and I'm almost to a point where I can get rid of the silliness here. But it does slow down my typing, and don't worry about it. Just keep writing. I don't instantaneously respond all the time. It takes a little longer, especially for longer letters written to me. So anyhow, other than that, what I want to talk about now is contracts. Your odds are, at some point here, you're going to be signing a contract to either rent or to purchase a property, okay? And there's going to be requirements from the owner, from the buyer, or from the landlord and the tenant. There is one very common mistake made by lots of people who come in from all over the world, different countries, and that is the assumption, everyone comes in assuming that however they deal with this sort of contract, or whatever is expected of them, is the same everywhere, as it is in their own country. No, it can be quite different. And furnished and unfurnished, for example, are terms that can be very differently defined, as well as responsibilities. When it comes to a rental, you may expect to, you'll keep the place clean. If you have any small repairs, will be done by taken care of by the tenant, but anything significant is the responsibility of the owner, blah, 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 blah. What does it say that in your contract? It probably does, but what does it say? My contract will say that I have to keep the air conditioning units cleaned, which is logical. But another one might say at least 3 times a year, and you have to have invoices proving that you did it. Now, this sort of thing. They can be very specific and not so specific. They tend to be more general and rentals, but still, who's responsible for what, and when, and how, and everything, anything you want to know what's in there. And if you're sitting with a lawyer and you're saying, well, what's involved here? This is what people normally do, and the lawyer says, well, you have to be responsible for keeping the air conditioning units clean. And if it's a very informal sort of chat you're having with them, may forget to mention the fact that, oh, you're supposed to do it X number of times a year and have invoices and all this stuff. If that were the case, that is a rare case that I've ever heard of. But it's the sort of thing you're looking for. You want to know about these things. Obviously, if you're purchasing a property, even more importantly, there's a lot of money running on it. So, and you don't speak Spanish. This is what I'm assuming. You don't have a legal background, and you're not familiar with the laws here in Panama, and you're not fluent in the Spanish language. Okay, so how do you deal with it? Now, you can ask a lawyer, and you normally do. Let's go through this contract and tell me what's responsible. In a rental contract, it's usually pretty straightforward. Purchasing is a little bit more, detailed. But if it's just an oral discussion, well, that's not legally binding the lawyer in any sense. And if you have a misunderstanding later, then it can be unpleasant if you say, well, you said this, and he said, no, I didn't, I said that, and this sort of business. So sometimes people worried about that will insist that the entire thing be translated into English. That can be really expensive because it's not just done by anybody. In a court of law here, the person who's done the translation is someone who is licensed to do that. They've been tested. They have to meet certain standards before their translations can be accepted as evidence in a court of law. Okay, so you don't want to go that road. This really came up as a problem, a special problem, a number of years ago, quite a while back. But what it was is that it was a development that I was very familiar with outside the city. And I liked it. I thought it was a very good place and everything else. And people asked me, do I recommend it? I said, sure, I did recommend it, and so on and so on. Now, I knew a lot of people up there, and I recognized that one of the things I liked about it was that they would provide the Spanish contract to someone, and along with it, an English version. Now, this is for a developer with lots and lots and lots of lots. So they have what we call in business boilerplate. 98% of any contract was exactly the same language. What was missing, and there were blanks in it, were for the name of the person buying it, for the lot number, for the amount agreed on, the number of payments, whatever. All the details had to be worked out between the two parties. Otherwise, everything in there is just standard legal stuff. And as a result, they could provide an English version which clearly marked as a translation, and not as a translation, but as an informal for educational purposes or whatever, only, not a contract and everything else. Because they could, if they passed it off as a contract, it gets complicated. It's the Spanish version that is the legal contract should there be a dispute. That's the important thing here. So, but they wanted people to know what they were signing. So, and it saved them a lot of time and effort just to hand them this, along with their boilerplate contract with all the spaces filled in. And then I got word that they were beginning to charge people. And I know it seems ridiculous, but I'm almost certain that they were charging $75 a page to translate these contracts. And even if the page length here, the sheet of paper, is longer than it is in the U.S., for example, so you cram more on it, let's say 4 pages, it would have been $300. And I said, what are you talking about? That's absurd, because 98% of that contract doesn't have to be translated more than once. It's going to be used all the time. And they're saying, oh, no, we have to take your specific contract, and then we have to translate it from scratch, and we have to have somebody who's authorized to do that, blah, blah, blah. And they turned it into a nice, profitable little side business, as far as I was concerned. I said, that's absolutely ridiculous, and I said so in those times. I don't do that very often. In fact, that's the one time, because I knew the people involved. I just said, hey, what do you think you're doing? That's absurd. This is absolutely outrageous. And they did change it. It just annoyed me no end, as well as an expense to people. And it's one of those things that sticks in my mind. I think, oh, no. So you don't want to go that route. You don't want to have it translated. You don't need to have it translated like that. But you do need to know if there's anything in there that could be unusual. Now, recently, someone, a reader at the website, a viewer here, she wrote me and said that she had purchased a place and she's back up in the U.S. now, so she's coming back down and so on. But she'd gotten a notification that the size of the apartment was a bit, I think it was 2 square meters larger than had been originally thought, and therefore she owed an additional 2 square meters worth of payment, money, because it's done by the square meter. A square meter is about 10 square feet, and that's a substantial amount of money. You're be talking $4,000 in some instances, and this for a purchase. Right? Her contract stated they could, if they found anything like that, it could increase by as much as 5%. All right, and so she accepted that it was in there. My response was, when you come back down here, you'd ask to see exactly what the paperwork. You want to see how it was determined that there was 2 extra meters to this apartment. What are you talking about? You need to see it because it's a deed. It's for a very specific piece of territory, so to speak. And it should have been correct to begin with. Why was it changed? Has it been? Who changed it? How did that happen? You just need to know. But she may have been aware of it. I don't know that it was in there, but I don't think she probably gave it much thought. Who would expect their apartment to suddenly expand? I wouldn't. Some years ago, there was a period of time, oh boy, was there a period of time. It was the first decade of this century that a lot of Americans and Canadians were coming down with lots of money from selling their homes in the real estate bubble period. And so they were just throwing money around, some of them here. And it was just very, very disturbing to see this going on, but they were being very, very, very sloppy about everything. And they were not looking carefully at their contracts and so on. Some people, because there was a lack of apartments and there was a demand way outstripped supply, the business down here they were trying to build more. The real estate developers were putting up more buildings and so forth. But so they had to sell those pre-construction at this stage because it takes time to build one and have it brought up to a level where it can be occupied. And if you wanted to, and you didn't like what was available in the market at the time, and they offered you something you did like, and you weren't coming down next month or something of that sort, you could wait, then you could get a much lower price at pre-construction, and they would have the apartment they estimated would be ready, say, in August, which became known as March of next year. Oh, boy. But anyhow, this was built into the contract. And one other little clause in many of these contracts, what we normally referred informally here as an escalator clause, the argument being that because they're selling it in advance of building it or while they're in the beginning of building it, the price of materials had been rising and could be rising again. And so if the price of materials were rising, they could charge up to 5% more for the final sale when everything was done and you were making your final payment. You paid in portions. Well, that was happening, and people were getting this extra 5%. And again, they may have been aware of it or not, I don't know, but it was certainly an unpleasant surprise for a lot of people. Now, for you folks today, listen to me. It's a buyer's market, for God's sakes. Why on earth are you buying something pre-construction? You're surrounded by inventory and eager buyers. So that's just saying. But if you do, keep that in mind. So you have things like this. How do you deal with this sort of stuff? And I can tell you, it's easy. It's simple. And so we'll get it out of the way right now. I have stuff that I need translated. I do work that is for clients and so forth. I write it, of course, all myself. It's in English. I do have people who are English speaking. They can read English, but they enjoy having it in Spanish. Makes it easier for them and their potential clients, for example. And I want that to be as easy for them as possible. So I have it translated into proper Spanish, and business Spanish, something respectable. I can't do that. Forget it. So I have this done. I go to a website. Now, this is one of many like it. It just happens to be the one I'm using, okay, called Upwork. That's up, UPWORK.com. And if you go to their website, you'll see, right here, you'll see the homepage looks like this. All right. Now, Upwork, I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically you can go in, you can set up an account there, and then you'll find there's all sorts of services that they provide that individual freelancers provide as a service to you. It's all set up. It's done very professionally. It's been operating for years. They got it down pat. They've done a very good job of it. And in this instance, what I do is I go in and I am looking for somebody to translate my English into Spanish. And there are different skill levels, or how many years of experience they have, and so on. Some of them are certified in the language and blah, blah, blah. And you can see lots of different possibilities there. And then you decide, if I decide I want this done, I will put one out for bids. I can do that. And I say, I want these basic background for anybody who responds to this bid, the qualifications for it. They have people who are highly qualified, no question, and those who are fairly new and beginning, and they're much cheaper, of course, and so forth, or what have you. You learn. And what happened the very first time is I put out my request, and they simply ship it out to everybody who falls into that category that I have, or that I've narrowed it down to the type of people I want, and the language, and where I want them to be from, and so forth, and what level of expertise. And then in come bids from these people, offering to do it for $40 or $60 or $25 or whatever. And I can see their backgrounds, their resumes, the work they've done before, how often they've been hired. I can read the comments that people have left about them, just as you would anywhere else. It's sort of like you'd see on Amazon or whatever, but these are real clients, and they're real comments, and their approval rating and everything else is right up there. And you choose one. Well, I spent some time, came up with Jorge. Jorge lives in Lima, Peru. I wanted a higher level, and I got it. He has done work for me maybe 15 times over the years. He does beautiful work, and it's rapid, and it's always accurate. I've had it checked. I mean, it's excellent. He does excellent work. And he does it very quickly. I know he's got it all set up in his computer and everything else, and plus he's got all sorts of certificates and blah, 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 whatever. And he does more than just Spanish to, English to Spanish. He can do Dutch to Spanish, German to Spanish, Italian to Spanish, and stuff like that. So you may not need him. I don't think you do, probably, but the guy's great. He's my friend now, and I have all my work done by him. I don't waste my time on bidding with other people. I know him, and I like him, and I like his work, and it's very, very, very reasonably priced. Now, if you're talking about 4 or 5 page contract, boilerplate, and everything else, it's not going to, I can't tell you how much it's going to cost you. You could probably get it done for $20, $25, $30 maybe. I don't know. It's going to be not a lot. And if it's the bidding, somebody's going to bid to do it for 15 because they're trying to build their resume and so forth and what have you. I would recommend that you go in and you take your contract, because you can send it in along with your request for bids whenever you want to over the internet, and everything is done right up there. And you will set up an account, and when you've chosen somebody and you've agreed on a price, say it's $30, then they draw down Upwork draws the $30 into their account, in escrow, basically, and holds on to that. The work is undertaken, and then, you can have mileposts, you can have all this stuff. It's much too fancy. It's just that when it's over and done with, and I've approved it, then the payment is made. And they are, I'm trying to remember, is it 5%, 3%, whatever it is, they take on top of that $30. So maybe I'm paying, I've forgotten now, it's not that much. If it's 5%, it's $31.50. It was that sort of situation, and well worth it. So, and bingo, and you get a rapid response. I mean, it's just astonishing, and it's perfect for you because you aren't doing what I'm doing. I'm preparing something for formal distribution to clients and potential clients, all right? You just want to know what's in your contract. You want it in your language. And you don't want to have to pay $75 a page or pay anybody to do some fancy translation of what is boilerplate, this standard language. You get it from that person. They'll do it. They'll do it for you. They'll send it to you, and in German or English or whatever language you work in, you sit there and read through it in a matter of minutes, and then you say, okay, I see this point and this point and this point. I don't understand those. These two I don't understand exactly what they mean. This one, I'm not sure I like that. It doesn't strike me. I don't remember anybody saying anything about this. That's what you take to your lawyer or to the real estate agent or whomever you're dealing with in this matter and ask. I want this clarified or I want this changed. You are the buyer in a buyer's market. You do have some leverage. So I'm not suggesting you make life miserable, especially if you're renting from somebody who's going to be your landlord. It's not to be nasty to people. It's just that you need to defend yourself, so to speak. You need to know exactly what you're signing, because you will be forever legally bound to that contract once you've signed it. And this is so simple. So you go to Upwork.com anytime you want to. I'd do it soon, just so you've been there, and just take a look and see how it operates and so forth. And be prepared. The day comes that you have any document from any language that you need a quick review of. You don't need a perfect, legal, acceptable in a court of law translation, but you do need a good translation so you know exactly what's in there. Bingo, you got it. I realized, this time around, as I hear people having some problems and difficulties here, I think, okay, let's get this right out here in front. Because I do it all the time. I'm doing it in reverse. I'm changing my words into somebody else's language instead of the reverse. So it just hadn't dawned on me. Well, I'm a little slow sometimes. So there it is for you. Give that some thought. And I would do that if I were you. And just to have this, it's not that much money. And you can be as cheap as you want to be. You get bids from the kid who just came in and just started your second job, that sort of stuff. But again, you're not asking for the Magna Carta or War and Peace or something of this sort. It's just a rental contract for purchasing of a home. Maybe step it up a notch, maybe. I don't know. You can make up your own mind. And I often said, one person I mentioned it to a long time ago and then forgot that I'd done it, said, yeah, but how do I really know if that person really did the right job? And I said, he was paying, I think it was $25 for what or something. I said, well, do it twice. Get two people to do it and compare them, But, I mean, come on. Unless they're totally incompetent. But you can do that if you want to, and then you're in effect checking the other. Guys, don't overthink this. It's a tool. Now, even if that wasn't you got a perfect translation, it doesn't make any difference because it's raising the issue. And when you sit down with a lawyer and say, this bothers me, and here's the translation I have of it, they say, oh, just a minute. That translation is not accurate in this country. It doesn't really describe, that's not what we mean by law here in Panama. Now, if they've got a legitimate reason for that, then okay. But you're going to get it out there, and it's going to be discussed, and you're going to have to be satisfied. And by the way, if they find a problem with, you can go back to the person who translated it later and say, they told me this was the proper translation, not that. What do you think? I've done that on one occasion, and I just didn't really, I just needed that checked. So that's it, guys. It's something. I think it's a tool. Make use of it. And you never know. You may, like me, end up, or like other people I know, end up using Upwork and services like that to provide you with all sorts of services from time to time that you might need. And that can be useful to you. I do it for translation, and somebody else would do it for something entirely different, research project or whatever. But I wanted to share it with you, and I will be back to you again. I am now seeing more people come down and talking to them. I'm beginning to get a sense of what I'm concerned with, what I need to watch out for your sake. This was one of them tonight. That's why I raised the one I did. So I put aside the issue I was going to be talking about more about the city. That'll come in the next one. Thank you very much again, and I hope you find this useful.